Hello, my friends. Welcome back to Restricted Republic. My name is Justice Knight. I can't thank you enough for being here. This is probably the literal fifth take of this broadcast I've done. I don't like to stop during my broadcast, but this one is probably so sensitive, so difficult to broadcast and maintain within the rules that we are all bound to now, but yet absolutely critical as our nation goes on high alert. I get this information to you because targets have been acquired. You notice how I wrote that because Q is one of those targets, and it's within the FBI directive. I'm going to show you specifically. But that's not where it stops. No, it goes to citizens, politicians, Republicans, Democrats. It makes no difference. They targeted a Democrat that you would never imagine. You would never imagine. So those of Democrats who may still be watching this broadcast, don't think for a moment that you could just sit in the background and laugh, because when you give the government this much power, and you know I'm a proponent of small government, they will always abuse it, always. And so if you think for now you're safe, you may be for the moment, but they're already turning their sights. They're expanding this to a greater degree. We know it's coming. We tell our audience every day it's coming, but yet a lot of people sit in the background and laugh right now thinking that somebody's getting their just desserts because one radical element has now impacted an entire thought process, an entire belief. And that's gone for now religious belief. That's gone for political belief. It's all kind of thrown into this horrid pot that our republic should never be in. But we're here. We're here now. So what's going on, you may be asking. Before I get there, I'm going to get there rather quickly. I got to ask you a huge favor. Many of you now understand everything we've been talking about. It's why I need you. Look in my comment section below. Pinned to the top will be our links to Gab, to Mayway, to Rumble, and to Restricted Republic. We're about to add a fifth one to that mix, but there's only so much we can manage in a day. Codius is also out there as I try to see how that's going to develop. All the links below. Please join us. It's imperative. If you go to Restricted Republic, I'm going to give you right now 14 days for free, $5 a month for the next 12 months. For all our annual subscribers, all our monthly subscribers, everything auto-renews, just so you know that up front. You can cancel any time. That's easy. But you'll see why and what unfiltered, uncensored speech sounds like in a platform with no commercials, no advertisers. We're beholden to no one but our audience. And I hope everybody understands now why we did it. And we spent the time and the blood and the sweat, the tears to develop that thing so long ago. Because we pretty much saw what was coming and exactly what's happening today as the FBI, as I mentioned earlier, puts the nation in high alert, telling police chiefs nationwide. And how did the Hill get this information? The Hill got this information from the New York Times, who put out a series of articles that we're going to jump into today to tell you everything that's happening. FBI and U.S. officials urge police chiefs to be prepared and share intelligence. So what does that mean? Well, Christopher Wray came out in a roughly 45-minute phone call. The FBI director, along with the acting director of the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services, expressed great concern about the potential for extremist violence, according to participants failing to identify any specific threats. The officials called on law enforcement officers across the country to watch for signs of trouble. The specific threat part is the part I take great humor out of there, because they're using this broad brush now. Whenever these dramatic events occur, they take a broad blanket approach and they throw a blanket over everyone. This has happened in the past. It's happening again now. Why would we expect anything different? It's how we know what's going to happen, because we follow history. Mr. Wray said that we need to continue to overshare intelligence, and they go on, so they don't want for us to assume anything that they already know. Anything that we come across to please forward to them. What he meant to say there is they don't want us to assume that the FBI knows anything. Go ahead and forward us all intelligence on anything that you believe could be out of the sorts. All intelligence. That won't fit one thought process. That means any police department, anywhere in the country, if there's somebody there who you're worried about, doesn't matter what political party, you're not going to qualify that. Doesn't matter what religion, they won't qualify that. Just go ahead and send it up to the FBI. Sounds great, huh? I told you. Big blanket. Everybody who was chuckling in the background. Hope you don't have anybody in the precinct near you who doesn't like you very much and may view you as a threat because, well, now that information is going to get up to the FBI. And what did the FBI release? They released this document called The Domestic Violent Extremist Emboldened in Aftermath of Capitol Breach Elevated Domestic Terrorism Threat of Violence Likely Amid Political Transition and Beyond. I love that they always got to use all these letters, but in this article, they use DVE, domestic violent extremist, as the key focus. They go all the way down in the wake of the January 6th violent breach by some in the U.S. Capitol building in Washington, D.C., following lawful protest activity related to results of the general election, anti-government or anti-authority violent extremists, specifically militia violent extremists, racially or ethnically motivated violent extremists, that are going to air their grievances, and there's a potential for greater violence. The funny part about this one is down at the bottom. We're very likely increased due to renewed measures to mitigate the spread of COVID-19. Yeah, they put that in the bulletin. Socio-political conditions and perceived government overreach. Government always has overreach, in our opinion, because I like small government, not big government. And when we're focused on government this much, we're probably in trouble. They should be an afterthought, not in the forefront of our minds every day, because that prevents us from living our lives like normal citizens in a great republic should. But I digress, and we move on because they get more specific here. Target acquired. Remember that? As well as DVEs who adhere to QAnon conspiracy theories, sitting right there in the middle. Going down a little bit further, to exploit follow-on lawful gatherings and ideological drivers, including conspiracy theories such as QAnon, likely will inspire some DVEs and others to engage in more sporadic lone actor or small cell violence against common DVE targets. They're telling you what they're looking for now, with no specific intelligence. We saw this already in the Capitol breach and exactly who the mainstream media publicized the most. But I'm going to digress for just a second because it gets more dangerous than that. Remember, I said nobody's immune from this right now. And now we have Eric Swalwell coming out. As you all well know, his relationship with the Chinese spy now exposed, but now he has something to say about the security of our nation. Let's listen in here for a moment.
Well, Osama bin Laden did not enter U.S. soil on September 11, but it was widely acknowledged that he was responsible for inspiring the attack on our country. And the president, with his words, using the words fight, with the speakers that he assembled that day who called for trial by combat and said we have to take names and kick ass, that is hate speech that inspired and radicalized people to storm the Capitol. And when you read the indictments from the U.S. Attorney's Office of people who've been arrested, in their FBI interviews, they cite that they were called there by the president. They were in the Capitol because the president told them to do so.
So in that thought process, Eric, just so you understand, if you're going to bind someone to guilt based on the actions of others, then where would that put you right now? You were in a relationship with a Chinese spy on American soil in a political environment. Hypocrisy. Eric, you would land in the same place you're asking for Trump to land in, just so you understand. But that's about all I want to talk about Eric Swalwell. And back to this target acquired. QAnon believers who plotted to kill Nancy Pelosi came to D.C. ready for war. You see, you can always see how they stage everything. This on Politico. They go into the message that the man left. It's rather violent. None of violence should ever be allowed. Threats against an individual person should never be allowed. On any of our platforms, we don't allow that. That is the breakpoint. That calling for violence or direct violence against another person, calling for it or outlining it is never allowed. Plain and simple. But that's what they're going to point out. And they're going to use that as a broad brush over everything. I'm going to show you how they start to expand that term to so many more people. Here's the indictment of the man discussed in the last article, just so you know this is as real as it gets. But remember the imagery that everybody uses. Shirtless man in horn helmet, a Capitol protest identified as QAnon backer. QAnon, QAnon, QAnon. Keeps coming up. This has been, so far, target number one of what they want to assure is kept in check. They go on multiple articles. Now, New York Times, article number 2 or 3 or 4, it's all in a sequence. You could just scroll up and down in this. Federal authorities warn the Capitol breach will be a significant driver of violence. The deadly breach at the Capitol last week will be a significant driver of violence for armed militia groups and racist extremists who are targeting the presidential inauguration next week, according to a joint intelligence bulletin issued by federal authorities. The Boogaloo, a movement that seeks to start a second civil war, and extremists aim to trigger a race war, may exploit aftermath of the Capitol breach by conducting attacks to destabilize and force a climactic conflict in the United States, according to the bulletin issued by the National Counterterrorism Center and Justice and Homeland Security Departments. I showed you that bulletin already, dated January 13th, just so you understand how current it is, which led to the FBI and U.S. officials urging police chiefs to ratchet up everything. The Washington Post in line putting out their article. Now you got the New York Times, New York Post. Now you got the Washington Post. QAnon reshaped Trump's party and radicalized believers. The Capitol siege may just be the start. Now you see how they expanded it further now. Now they put QAnon reshaped the entire Trump party and all believers in Trump. This is called how they start to brainwash everyone into making this so large that most people can't interpret what they mean. Right now, all they think is Trump supporter bad. 75 million plus people bad. That's a terrifying statement to make, a dangerous and irresponsible statement to make. That's not responsible journalism. The online conspiracy theory, which depicts Trump as a messianic warrior battling deep state Satanist, has helped fuel a real-world militant extremist that could haunt the Biden era. It's a threat to our democracy, and we're not nearly done. And they're not nearly done. They're not done even if you're in Congress. Republican lawmakers are accused of giving Capitol tours to insurrectionists before the riots as new inquiries are opened. We reported on this yesterday. I told you this wasn't going to stop. That's right. They believe that Republican lawmakers, they will have to prove this out, gave tours to those that had crashed the Capitol days ahead of time to give them a blueprint of where to go. Now, we're going to see where this specific intelligence ends up. This is what's under investigation right now. And if you did believe in QAnon, 70,000 of you were already purged from Twitter. The number's probably going to get higher than that, and plan on every other platform that you had that belief system purging also. Twitter and Facebook banned Trump, while Amazon cut off a pro-Trump website. YouTube banned Trump also, shutting down his channel. But on Breitbart's exclusive GOP memo to members of Congress prioritized tech censorship. Allegedly, they are going to relook at Section 230 again. Of course, it says a Republican study, which means now that's going to get diffused in seconds, because if you watch the new Democrats, Cori Bush, I don't want to unite with those responsible for the Capitol chaos. This isn't unity in any way, shape, or form. You're watching it unfold. Here's more specifically what she wants. I would, under Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, according to House Resolution 25, investigate and expel the GOP members of Congress who attempted to overturn the election and incited a white supremacist attack. So anybody who attempted, according to her, in Congress, to overturn the election, so anybody who had challenged it, now has to be removed from Congress. Call your rep to sign on. We can't have unity without accountability. What she's saying there is we can't have unity without the complete removal of anybody who disagrees with us. Cori Bush can be very polarizing, to say the very least. And no one is immune to this. As you've seen the attacks on Ted Cruz and Josh Hawley pick up pace. This on Vanity Fair, they're not sorry. AOC calling him out directly. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez to GOP colleagues. White supremacist will never win. This is a portion of the speech I'm going to go in great detail about later on today over at Restricted Republic. Hope you can join us. I'm going to go point by point. I'm going to let her speak, and then we're going to counter it. It is the single greatest example of gaslighting that I have ever seen. One of the most dangerous speeches ever aired. And she blueprints everything that's about to happen. Everything. She does not hold bars, including the silencing of media once and for all. Most radical idea I've heard. But I'll just give you a portion of it. 2 portions of it.
And there were members cheering them on. Don't get it twisted. Don't let them act like they didn't. There were members who were supportive. You had a member of Congress from Colorado saying, "My people are outside." They flew the Confederate flag when it didn't even make it in during the Civil War.
expanded it another step now, didn't they? They're going to continue to expand it so much so that they now need upwards of 20,000 National Guardsmen could arrive in Washington. You see how they're playing with the psyche of the American public right now. They're ratcheting up the tension levels. This is what we report on and against. And if you're like us, we try to keep as moderate of a position as we can. We, of course, have our own beliefs, but yet that's being challenged. We know how to kind of weed through the ocean, but do you? I know it could feel rather tense right now. It can feel like, what the heck am I supposed to be talking about or not talking about? What should I put on social media or not put on social media? Technically, as long as you're not calling for violence, everything should be okay. If you're not directing a threat or hate at an individual person, everything should be okay. But I know everybody's questioning that now. But that is the basics, and hopefully someday we'll get back to that. But right now we're in a very different era. So much so that remember those Democrats in the back of the room who may still be watching this broadcast being like, ha, we got you. Everybody's got to be quiet now. It's our time. Well, not for so long. I mean, it's only been a few days, and already Facebook's Sandberg, who couldn't be a greater example of the leaning left, that's the lady who runs Facebook outside of Mark Zuckerberg, putting it simply, deflects blame for a Capitol riot, but new evidence shows how platform played a role. That's right, they're attacking Facebook now. No one is safe. Targets have been acquired. If you disagree or do anything advertently or inadvertently against what they believe, they're coming for you. They'll come to silence you and assure you're put back under their control. This is what's happening. It's out in broad daylight. It's mainstream media. Nobody's hiding this. Just look at your headlines or just come to us and we'll aggregate them for you to kind of paint the bigger picture of what's happening. That's what we do here at Restricted Republic. We paint the bigger picture. And they don't want anybody painting a bigger picture, unfortunately, for all of us. And we can use your support right now. AOC suggests adding media literacy as a mandate for a Congressional Truth and Reconciliation Committee. If you don't know what that means, why I'm going to blow up over at Restricted Republic, because I can't air what my true thoughts are here. This is the most terrifying of, almost the most terrifying statement within her soliloquy that she gives. Her long-winded speech. I probably used the wrong word. Don't care at this point. We can't be like that anymore. We just got to get to brass tacks. But I want you to listen to what she calls for here and understand the end of America, if we allow this to continue, it is so near right now.
Any discussion in Congress about federal truth and reconciliation or media literacy initiatives to help with healing? I definitely, I can't say, I don't think that the response, this kind of like medium term response has fully crystallized yet. But what I can say is that there's absolutely a commission that's being discussed, but it seems to be more investigatory in style rather than truth and reconciliation. And so I think that's an interesting concept for us to explore. And, I do think that several members of Congress in some of my discussions have brought up media literacy because that is a part of what happened here. And we're going to have to figure out how we rein in our media environment.
I hope you know what that means. I truly hope, and I know that that's not lost on you. That's the end of everything. The end of everything. I was dumbfounded when I heard that. It's why I'm about to go on a rant for a later broadcast today. That can never be allowed. It's why we need you to get over to Mayway. It's why we need you to get over to Gab. It's why get over to Codius. Get over to our next thing, which we're about to release. Get over to Restricted Republic, the platform we own. Because when you hear comments like that, it's not if, it's when. They're not going to stop. This will envelop everybody. Doesn't matter. The only people who want the outright authority as to what you should think, what you should say, what you should believe in, and what you should be doing is the government. And thanks to AOC there, Gaslighting 101, she gives away the entire plan. I'm going to cover that next. Can't thank you enough for being here. If you haven't subscribed to this platform, whatever you're watching on, I certainly hope you will. Get over to Restricted Republic, 14 days for free right now, on top of using coupon code Trump, $5 a month for the next 12 months. And we'll see what the thousands and thousands and thousands of new subscribers are seeing and what they want. And conversation between people with similar beliefs. Until next time, Godspeed and God bless. Justice Knight, signing out.